Dan and Amy, good morning. And some breaking news. The U.S. has reached a deal with the Chinese company ZTE, that telecom company, over which the president and his team have been negotiating with the Chinese for both in terms of the punishment for their pirating of American technology, their theft, as well as
business with Iranians and things that were frowned upon,
like stealing our stuff.
Yeah, that too.
Stealing the stuff of
Just
American
don't touch
companies.
my stuff, really.
The IP and whatnot. So that was being discussed in connection with the idea that perhaps we could get the Chinese to buy more U.S. products to deal with that trade imbalance that Trump worries about so much. There was some talk of $40 billion more annual purchases of U.S. goods by the Chinese. In the announcement, there's no indication of the quo with the quid, but ZTE will pay $1 billion and $400 million in escrow for future theft they plan to commit, and that's in addition to almost $900 million in penalties ZTE has already paid for their violations. So I don't know if it's hard to say if that's progress in this back and forth with the Chinese over trade policy and tariffs or not, but that deal that had been reported off and on for the last couple of weeks has now been consummated. And then this story yesterday that was underreported, a Senate subcommittee report on the Iranian nuclear deal that found that the Obama administration lied to Congress and lied to the American people and tried to get U.S. banks to break the law. But other than that, they were forthright and transparent.
There's nothing to see here, folks. Move along.
The Obama administration, was clear that Iran would not be given access to the U.S. financial system. That's what Jack Lew, the Treasury Secretary, and other Obama apparatchiks said. That's what they said. Then, February 24th, 2016, according to the Senate report, the Treasury Department issued a license permitting Iran to commit $5.7 billion it held in Oman to raise to U.S. dollars and then into euros. That would have violated the sanctions law as well as the terms of the Iran nuclear deal. As the Weekly Standard's editorial puts it, to put it plainly, Obama officials asked U.S. banks to break the law, and the banks said no. For more on these topics and others, we're pleased to be joined by Noah Rothman from Commentary Magazine, where he is the associate editor. Noah, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
What about that report on the Iranian nuclear deal, given the hysterics that the left was thrown into when Trump walked away from it recently?
Yeah, I mean, you remember hearing about how the Obama administration faced no scandals. It was a scandal-free administration.
Scandal-free.
Everyone, including the president, has suggested that they were just a forthright, up-and-up, above-board organization that didn't transgress any norms and certainly didn't break any laws. Well, there you go. I mean, this is just one of many. Obviously, that was nonsense from the get-go, but this is an affirmation of what critics of the Iran deal have always said, is that it was not a transparent process, that it was riddled with side deals. The IAEA had side deals, Europe had side deals, and now apparently the Obama administration was organizing an effort to enhance and strengthen the Iranian economy in violation of sanctions laws in order to sweeten the pot for Iran. This is the backdrop against which Donald Trump is heading to Singapore to negotiate a very fraught and complex agreement with the North Koreans designed ostensibly to denuclearize the peninsula. That is not going to happen. North Korea will not denuclearize. So what are we going to give up? So what are we going to give up in that process? Because there's always going to be a lot on the table that we have to surrender as leverage in order to get illusory concessions on disarmament. Is a very disturbing prospect, and people who are very afraid of symmetry for these reasons, because it has a habit of sprawling and ending up putting the balance in favor of the rogue regimes, have a lot to point to as precedent.
Are you concerned then that this summit is happening at all? Would your advice and counsel be that the president does not engage with Kim Jong-un?
Yeah, said he was correct to walk away from the summit when he said he walked away from it, and that everybody pretended like he never made that statement in the first place, the president included. And it was extremely bizarre, and I said they were wrong to do that. This is a process that should be limited to lower levels, functionaries, diplomats at a level that you can move up from. You know, once you have a principal summit, there's nowhere to go from there.
Right.
If it's a failure, then the lower level diplomatic contacts are mooted. And which is why, by the way, the summit will not be a failure, air quotes. Something will emerge from that summit. There will be a, quote, success that emerges from that summit, and that scares me to death.
Well, what we do is we pay our enemies to be our friends, don't we? I mean, is that a possibility that we're going to, lessen the sanctions on them and possibly help their oppressed people?
Yeah, sure. We will probably surrender security guarantees, perhaps diplomatic recognition, an end to the 1953 armistice. There will absolutely be economic assistance in the form of, as you said, reduced sanctions or something perhaps a little more substantial. I don't know. But we will be surrendering something, and North Korea will play ball. They have no choice but to pretend as though, to act as though they are participating in this process, just as Iran did. And everybody who's invested in diplomatic processes will say that Iran is compliant with whatever the lenient terms of the deal are, or rather North Korea is compliant with the lenient terms of the deal are. Again, this is all precedent. We watched this all happen with Iran. It was all an illusion, the appearance of success. And if anybody's really interested in peace on the peninsula, the summit seems to me to be a much more dangerous prospect than a hopeful one.
Well, I want to mainly know what Dennis Rodman gets out of it. Speaking of principles at the table.
Yeah, well, he's inserted himself, and he's going to be, lurking around Singapore while they're having this summit.
That really adds a
reality TV touch flair to it.
Well, it's real intellectual heft and sobriety to this summit. All right, on to other serious things. Noah, you wrote a piece for commentary about the crisis that we are pretending to ignore. You're talking about the entitlement state and sort of the state of affairs with the big ticket welfare state systems in terms of their financial stability.
Yeah, it's no secret that, and we managed to push it off with Band-Aids. But we got some bad news over the course of this week. Apparently, according to the trustees for both programs, Medicare is going to go broke a lot faster than we thought it was going to. It's going to hit insolvency in 2026 instead of 2029. That's 8 years away for anybody who wants to do the math. In other words, the next president's either second term or first term. And the Social Security, quote-unquote, trust fund, which doesn't really exist, was tapped into by the program. This is going to be tapped into the program this week because it's going to reach the point at which it can no longer meet its obligations to its beneficiaries. Now, people who want to say that this is no big deal, e.g. Democrats who insist that both Medicare and Social Security can be expanded to the broader population without any sort of concern for the solvency of the programs, say that this isn't a really big thing, is that it's only going to hit a wall for certain aspects of the program, and certain beneficiaries may not get 100% of their benefits. They're only going to be able to pay out 90% of their benefits. No big deal. That's nonsense. Even the smallest debate over the prospect of, for example, means testing Social Security beneficiaries results in garment-rending, hair-pulling out insanity over the people who will be left in the streets to die. There's going to be a panic in the next decade. And also because, according to the CBO, in 2028, the nation's debt, sovereign debt, reaches over 100% of its GDP, at which point debt becomes inserviceable. We have a crisis. So we're either going to have a debate over serious cuts to the entitlement programs or really serious tax increases.
So
and
people
that's
that are
going to come amid, and eventually the business cycle returns, right? I mean, we are due for a recession. So when this thing hits, it could hit amid some really serious political dysfunction.
I know how to fix it. Make it bigger. That's how you do. Yeah.
So people who are banking on their Social Security as their retirement plan, they should get another plan?
Well, I mean, everybody should have a 401k or some sort of a financial plan and put some money in something. I mean, it's a lot easier said than done. I know I can't do it, but it's something that, you should be doing. It's not as though these benefits are going to disappear. Again, There's a difference between disability and retirement benefits, and people want to combine them all. But the bottom line is that you're going to have to engage in some kind of reform of these programs, not just Band-Aids. The president submitted some, which some actually very good proposals, I thought. But it requires legislative action, and now is the time to do it when the economy is healthy, when the jobless rate is under 4%. This is the time when the economy can absorb that kind of pain. It's not going to be the case forever, and when the business cycle returns, no one's going to want to be tightening belts, and that's the sort of thing we have to think about.
With those reviews of threats internal and external, we were joined by Noah Rothman, associate editor for Commentary Magazine. You can check out his most recent column talking about the entitlements and their state, financial state, the crisis we pretended to ignore. Noah, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.